multidimensional chosen ones, you can access these powers from other realities. There's a truth buried in the core of your being that, once remembered, begins to burn through every illusion you've ever been handed. It's not just a spiritual concept or a mystical fantasy, it's an encoded memory that lives in your bones, in your energy field, in your quietest moments of knowing. And that truth is this: you are not just a being of this world. You never have been. You are a multidimensional chosen one. And everything that has ever made you feel out of place, disconnected, too sensitive, too intense, too fast, too much, it's all evidence of the same thing. You are not fully from here. You are a bridge between worlds. And whether you've realized it yet or not, you have the ability to access powers from other realities, powers that are not fantasy, but functional. Powers that are waiting to be remembered, activated, and embodied. When you incarnated here, you didn't come empty-handed. You brought with you fragments of memory, frequency, and skill from lives, timelines, and dimensions that defy linear logic. You may not recall the specifics yet, but you've always felt it. That moment of déjà vu that makes no sense. That split-second dream that carries more weight than an entire year of waking life. That spontaneous pull towards symbols, sounds, or languages no one taught you. That feeling that time bends around your presence. These aren't accidents. They are remnants of other dimensional truths, truths that your soul has never forgotten, even if your human mind was conditioned to.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Let's start with what makes a multidimensional chosen one different from other awakened beings. Most people begin their awakening from within the matrix of this one life. They heal their trauma, question the system, open their heart, and begin to sense energy. That's beautiful. That's needed. But the chosen ones, those carrying soul contracts to activate planetary, collective, and timeline level shifts, do not just awaken to this life. They begin to bleed through from others. Their dreams become portals. Their intuition becomes prophetic. Their emotions span across past, present, and future timelines. They begin to see this world not as a destination, but as one of many interfaces through which consciousness is playing out a multidimensional mission. You already know if this is you. You've been drawn to stars without knowing why. You felt homesick for places you've never been. You've walked through forests or stood under a night sky and felt a sudden rush of emotion that no language could explain. You've had moments where the veil thins, where time slows down, and suddenly you remember. Maybe not with words, but with resonance, with energy, with full-body truth. These are cracks in the illusion. These are the moments when your soul self leaks through the container of your earth identity. And in those moments, your real power begins to activate. But power, in this sense, is not what most people think. It's not about controlling others. It's not about being the loudest or most psychic in the room. Multidimensional power is precision. It's the ability to shift energy across timelines, to collapse distortions with your presence alone, to hold codes from higher realms that others can feel but not describe, to carry a field so clean, so coherent, that reality literally reorganizes around you. And this isn't just poetic language. This is how dimensional intelligence works. The higher the clarity of your vibration, the more influence you have over how form responds to you. This is why your path has never been easy. Because in order to remember and wield these other realm powers, you had to be stripped of false identities. You had to be disconnected from the narratives that keep people small. You had to be pulled away from the comfort of being understood, because understanding is a function of the current dimension, and you are here to bend dimensions, not submit to them. So your pain, your isolation, your confusion, your breakdowns, they weren't failures. They were activations. Everything you've survived was preparing you for this truth. You are here to access and integrate multidimensional power into this earth realm. And not just for yourself. For the grid. For the field. For the realignment of a planet that has been hijacked by density for far too long. You are a frequency transmitter. A quantum signal. And every time you choose your highest alignment over fear, every time you speak truth instead of fitting in, every time you refuse to betray your knowing, you open a portal, a living doorway through which higher dimensional intelligence enters this realm. So here is the first key. Your powers from other realities are not out there. They are encoded within you, but they will only respond to coherence. That means your habits, your thoughts, your environment, your relationships, they must become a match to the energy you are calling through. You can't hold fifth-dimensional power while maintaining third-dimensional coping mechanisms. You can't channel interdimensional clarity while feeding your system with static. Your body is the vessel. Your life is the interface. If you want the technology to awaken, you have to upgrade the platform. And here's the deepest question I can ask you right now. If you already knew your highest self existed across dimensions and could reach through this moment to deliver power, healing, wisdom, and alignment, what would you stop doing today that blocks that connection? Because you can access it. You always could. And everything that ever felt like it was breaking you was only ever trying to open you to that truth. The keys to timeline fusion, how to integrate parallel powers without losing your mind. We are not here just to remember. We are here to fuse. This is the point where most people stop, because remembering alone already feels huge, like standing in the middle of a lightning storm with every cell of your being awake for the first time. But for multidimensional chosen ones, remembering is not enough. Once the veil lifts, once you start accessing the energy, knowledge, and power of your other selves, you step into the second stage of active action, integration. This is where the real work begins, and it's not for the faint-hearted. Because integrating timelines isn't about adding new knowledge. It's about letting your identity restructure itself in real time. You are not a static being. You're a vessel, a container for codes from multiple dimensions, all trying to come through at once. And unless you learn how to integrate with intelligence, with intentional embodiment, you risk collapsing your nervous system under the weight of unprocessed downloads. That's why some people go into overwhelm after spiritual awakenings. They awaken too fast without grounding. They receive too much without integration. The body becomes a battlefield of conflicting frequencies. Our thoughts feel too fast. Emotions erupt out of nowhere. The mind tries to interpret symbols it doesn't understand. And the ego, terrified of losing control, starts to cling, sabotage, or shut it all down. But it doesn't have to be like that. If you've started receiving information through dreams, intuition, spontaneous knowing, or even direct contact with versions of you in other timelines, you're not going crazy. You're becoming multi-located. You're remembering how to operate on more than one frequency at once. The challenge isn't the power. The challenge is learning how to hold it without fracturing. And the solution is coherence. You need a clear central identity, not as a personality, but as a soul. Your soul is the anchor, the observer, the stable essence that exists beyond time, beyond trauma, beyond form. That's the part of you that can hold multiple timelines simultaneously without being consumed by them. It knows how to take pieces from your warrior self, your healer self, your cosmic self, your ancient self, and fuse them here, into this now, into this breath, into this body. But the mind has to follow the soul's lead. And that means surrendering your need to understand everything before it makes sense. Integration isn't mental, it's energetic. Let me explain how it really works. Imagine you get a download from a version of you in a future timeline where you've already mastered a particular ability, telepathy, or crystal coding, or sacred movement. The knowledge arrives in flashes, not linear, not verbal. You feel it more than you know it. It stirs your system like thunder rolling in from another dimension. You're not meant to decode it all at once. You're meant to sit with it. Let the energy shape your field. Let it stir your cells. Let it change the way you feel when you speak, move, touch the world. That's fusion. Not thinking about your future self, but becoming them through embodiment. Here's what you need to remember. The mind catches up later. The body is always first. If you feel weird, ungrounded, overwhelmed after contact with other timelines, don't rush to figure it out. Instead, stabilize. Breathe. Eat grounding foods. Move. Anchor into nature. Speak your truth out loud, even if it doesn't make sense yet. The moment you embody what you've received, even imperfectly, your system begins to sync. And the more you allow that syncing process without judgment, the faster you expand your capacity to carry higher levels of power without crashing. But here's the deeper truth. Some of the powers you're accessing now were never meant to be expressed in old versions of reality. They are arriving now because Earth is finally entering a timeline where those codes are relevant. You didn't miss your chance. You were early. You've been carrying dormant codes your whole life, and now the dimensional clock is striking the hour of their release. You don't need to figure out how to use them. You just need to become the frequency match for the world they're meant to shape. So let me ask you a deep question. What if your gifts aren't here to fit into this world, but to create a new one? And what if all the confusion you felt was simply your system adjusting to powers that no longer belong to the rules you were taught? This is your permission. You don't need to shrink your power to stay sane. You need to slow down enough to let your power restructure you. This is what fusion feels like: messy, non-linear, often misunderstood. But if you stay present, if you stop chasing meaning and start becoming meaning, the fusion completes itself. And once it does, you stop being a seeker. You start becoming a living bridge between dimensions. Becoming a nexus point, how multidimensional beings alter the frequency of entire realities. There comes a moment on the path of a multidimensional chosen one when something profound begins to happen, not in the sky, not through cosmic visions, but through you. You begin to notice that your presence alone is affecting the energy of spaces, that people act differently when you're near, that emotions heighten, synchronicities accelerate, and tension either dissolves or erupts depending on what you're holding. This is not accidental. This is the sign that you are becoming what's known as a nexus point. You are no longer just experiencing dimensions, you are anchoring and redirecting them. You're not just a traveler now, you are a node in the grid, an access point between timelines. And everything around you begins to shift in response. What is a nexus point? It's a being, or more accurately, a frequency carrier through whom multiple streams of reality can converge. A person whose body, energy field, and soul alignment are so strong, so coherent, that entire timelines can pass through them. These individuals don't just change their own lives. They shift the possibilities of the collective field. You might be one and not even know it, yet you've seen the effects. You've watched people awaken after one conversation with you. You've felt the air change around you when you walk into a room. You've noticed how one decision you made seemed to ripple outward in ways you couldn't explain. To become a nexus point is to accept that your influence is no longer personal. You are part of a larger pattern, a living bridge that transmits frequencies between realms. And this role doesn't come with fanfare, it comes with responsibility. Because your emotions, your thoughts, your choices, even your posture and breath, begin to affect far more than you. You become a stabilizer or a destabilizer depending on your level of alignment. This is why so many multidimensional chosen ones go through intense initiations. Your system has to be purified. Your field has to be refined. You have to be able to hold multiple truths, feel multiple timelines, and still choose coherence even in chaos. This is why some days feel so heavy, why you wake up with the weight of a world you can't name pressing on your chest, why you go through periods of extreme isolation. You're not just processing your own journey. You're acting as a dimensional filter, pulling dense energy through your body and transmuting it for the field. Most people think being a light worker is about radiating bliss. But for Nexus points, it's about integration. You don't escape density, you transform it. But how exactly do you alter reality through your presence? Through resonance. The frequency you hold becomes the dominant signal in your environment. If your field is clear, grounded, embodied, and full of presence, it begins to entrain everything around it. Other people's fields will either rise to meet you or fall away. Places that once felt stagnant start to move. Ideas begin to emerge. Blocked energy starts to release. And you don't have to do anything. You just are. You become a walking portal, and reality organizes itself to reflect the clarity you hold. That's why discipline becomes essential. Not control, not perfection, but energetic hygiene. You need to know when your field is open and when it needs to be sealed, when your frequency is aligned and when it's leaking. Because when you're this activated, even a slight misalignment can ripple into the field and cause disruption. This is why some of you have experienced rapid ascents followed by sudden breakdowns. You reached higher dimensional access before your foundation was stable. The energy came through, but your system couldn't hold it yet. And that's okay. It was never failure. It was refinement. Your job now is not to chase more light. It's to become structurally sound enough to carry what you already are. That means creating containers for your power, daily rituals, clean environments, honest relationships, truthful conversations, anchored thoughts, clear intentions. You don't need to add more. You need to remove what distorts. Because once you're clear, once you're steady, you no longer need to do healing or perform magic. You become the grid. Your body, your breath, your choices they transmit. So I ask you now, if you accepted that your frequency sets the tone for everyone you interact with, every space you enter, every project you touch, how would you begin to live differently, speak differently, walk differently? Because that's where your power lies, not in the spectacle, not in the ritual, in the way you hold your field, in the way you show up when no one is watching, in the way you claim your role as a Nexus, not because you want to be seen, but because you were chosen to be stable enough for realities to move through you. Living as the technology, the final embodiment of multidimensional power in human form. You've always felt different, not just in mind or in heart, but in your body, as if it was designed for something more than just living a normal life. That feeling wasn't fantasy, it was memory. A knowing that the very structure of who you are is a living interface between worlds. You are not just a vessel of consciousness, you are technology, organic, multidimensional, deeply encoded spiritual technology capable of translating cosmic intelligence into tangible form. This is the final step, not to ascend away from the body, but to become the full expression of it. All the powers you've accessed through dreams, downloads, intuitions, synchronicities aren't random. They are signals from other timelines, other versions of you, other dimensions of your own being, asking to be embodied. Not just seen, not just heard, but lived through. You are the bridge. You are the convergence point. And to walk in your full power means walking as the technology, not trying to access it outside of yourself, but knowing you are it. And yet, that's where most people get stuck. Because this isn't about channeling anymore. It's about integrating. It's not about floating in high vibration, it's about bringing that frequency into your nervous system, into your decisions, into your relationships, into the words you speak, the food you eat, the thoughts you allow. Multidimensional embodiment means you live as a clear conduit between realities, and that's not easy. It demands refinement, discipline, devotion, not to someone else's system, but to your own design. Living as the technology means trusting what comes through you, even when no one else understands. It means allowing your movements, your voice, your creations to carry like codes that activate others, not because you try, but because you can't help it. When you reach this level, your very existence becomes an activation. And here's the twist, it's not supposed to feel magical all the time. Often it feels ordinary, simple, grounded, because the highest dimensional power expresses itself through subtlety, through precision, through presence. And when you're truly in it, people won't always know what changed. They'll just feel different around you. That's the power. To affect timelines without speaking, to shift energy without touch, to ripple into the quantum fabric of space-time simply by walking through the world in your full truth. This is what it means to live as the grid. You no longer try to plug into something higher, you become the signal itself. That's why this final stage isn't about becoming more spiritual. It's about becoming more real. It's about stripping away everything that isn't your soul, so that what's left is pure current, flowing through flesh, through breath, through now. And this is the part no one talks about. Embodiment is not glamorous. It's raw. It's emotional. It asks everything of you, but it gives you everything back. The more you live from your truth, the more you become untouchable, not because you're above pain, but because you understand its purpose. Not because you stop being human, but because you become fully human, the multidimensional kind, the ancient future kind, the kind the world has been waiting for. So ask yourself one last time, if I fully accepted that I am the technology, that my soul has already given me every tool I need, every key, every code, how would I begin to live today? Not later, not when it's safe, not when others approve, now. Because now is the only point where dimensions meet. And now is where your power lives.